What is up, everyone? So thank you for being a part of the beta test group. So I'm going to drop out this Trendline utility. Now, this Trendline utility is different than the last one. The last one, it required me to provide you a file of Trendline definitions. You had to then include in your files folder, and then you'd have to run a script to read that file and draw it. Well, this does it automatically. Before I was actually drawing the trend lines out and providing you that definition file. Now that's gone, and this will be automatic. So I want to show you exactly how we use this. And then also what I want to talk about is what the next steps are. We'll start with what the next steps are first, what the assignment is. So the assignment for those that opted in is to beta test this trendline utility. And that means that we want to break it. We want to break it. We want to find out where there are bugs, where things don't work, or also provide to me where there's an improvement, where you feel there's a way to improve this process. That's going to be super important. And then what I'll do is I will incorporate it all in. So this trendline utility actually expires next Wednesday, which is going to be your broker's server time. Right, so if your broker's overseas, then you're going to expire probably 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours or 5 to 8 hours before that time, before Thursday strikes, right? So just letting you know. And then what you could do is please provide that feedback throughout the week, drop it into the community chat. And then I'll just respond, I'll gather that information, and I'll make the improvements rather quickly. Once we know that this is solid enough, I'm just going to include this in the EA, where it'll at least be a part of drawing the EA, and then I can wrap it around the trendline break strategies, where it will auto trade those trendline breaks. And then we'll move forward to the Fibonacci, actually drawing the entry levels and stuff. It's something that maybe some of you have seen already, or maybe not quite. It's not just the regular vertical Fibonacci line. There's way more to it. But in any case, this is how you use it. Let's get into how you use it. So first thing you're going to do is I'm sending each of you an individual file in a DM. Right? So you'll take that file and you're going to drop it in your scripts folder. Okay, you're going to drop it in your scripts folder. As you can see, this is your scripts folder. And the same way we've dropped the previous script trendline files, you're going to drop this Squawk Trendlines utility there also. You'll refresh your navigator window. And when you double click it, you're going to get a listing of options. And I'll go through these options really quick. It's very basic. There's really not much to it. So basically, you're going to be able to select draw bullish trend lines, yes or no, or true or false, or bearish trend lines, true or false. You can select the trend line color for your bulls, and then your bear trend lines. Animate if you wanted to see it animate. If not, set it to false and it'll just draw it. It'll save time on some of the bigger screens. Keep existing trend lines. So what this means is that if you draw the trend lines on your chart, and then you say you start on the 4 hour, and then you draw your trend lines, and now you move to the 5 minute and you want to draw trend lines, it'll keep the existing trend lines that you've already drawn, so you can see the H4 trend lines and the minute 5 trend lines. And then what we have is, and of course, if you ever wanted to clear them out, then you would just say keep existing trend lines. You can set that to false, and that'll clear out all the trend lines that this utility has created first, and then it'll draw it again. The next thing here is a candlestick break threshold. So what this does is this is going to calculate the trend line, and it'll determine, is the trend line cutting through the wick, which we know is good, or is it cutting through the body of the candle? And if it's cutting through the body of the candle, you can set a threshold on how many candle bodies do you want this to be allowed to cut through before it's just an invalid trend line, right? Because you don't want it cutting through, a full area of price, right? You just really want it to skim the top or the bottom of price, if anything. But you can set that threshold. And then, of course, your line style and width is a variable that you can set also. So I'm just going to click OK. Basically, I'll click OK, and I'm going to cancel out. I'm going to start at the H4. So the way you would do it is the way you would normally draw your trend lines. You would start at the H4, right? And once you start at your hourly 4, what you're going to do is you'll double click, you'll set your parameters, you'll click OK, and it will auto draw these trend lines automatically at this point, right? And at this point, you can then decide which trend lines you want to keep. Okay, so this is drilled in. You can see this is the hour 4 trend lines that were drawn, and then you can decide which trend lines you want to keep. So say I'm good with just this trend line here that's touching this. Although this is really nice because this one is touching multiple points. You can see this one here is touching this the start, this the second, and then it's touching multiple spots. So that's actually a good one also. So we'll keep those. We'll get rid of this one. If you want to, you can just double click, right click the trend line and click delete. Now, if you wanted to drop down to a previous time frame or a smaller time frame, you can do so. Just click on, say, for example, in this case, minute 5. For if we wanted something a little bit more risky, you can click on minute 5, and then what you'll do is you'll just drag this trend line utility back on. And it'll ask you, do you want to keep the existing trend lines? I'm going to say yes. And what I'll do is I will change this color to yellow for bullish trend lines, and then we'll make this one like, say, I don't know, an orange for the bearish trend lines, just so that we can see the difference between the, actually I'll make this like an aqua for the bullish and an orange for the bearish. And when you click OK, it'll draw them out and it'll give you the newer trend lines, the more tight trend lines. And then once again, you can decide on which ones you want to keep. This is what we want to do. And what I would recommend is you keep it in, on your chart for the week. Let's see these trend lines break. This is where you could definitely trade off of your trend line breaks. I'll be letting you know which trend lines I'm using. I'll be definitely using the H4 and I'll be working my way down. M5s will probably be, or maybe even M1s will probably be like right before market opens, right? As it's fluctuating before market opens, I'm going to probably draw another trend line right before market opens, and those are going to be the trend lines that I'll use for breaks and runs. So once we approve this once again, this will be a part of the EA, and it'll be a part of the auto trader where you can set your parameters to. So there you have it. Look out for the my drop. I'm going to be sending you guys, I think it's like 22 of you all that opted in. I'm going to be sending you all with this script along with the instructions, and let's rock and roll. Let's see what we can find out, see what we can break. This is on XAU USD. You can run this on any pair, any single pair, run it on, and let's see it work. Okay, and then there's ways that we could start to minimize which trend lines. You know, if we see a lot of trend lines being drawn on one period, there's ways that we can minimize or eliminate the less valid lines, if you will. But right now I wanted to give this to you in the raw, and then we'll see how it goes from there. So once again, thank you all very much, and peace.